My today's talk mainly focus on the overview of the hydrology and water quality program here at the center. And as part of this talk today, I would like also to present some highlights of my works, and specifically the work I'm doing for groundwater in the state of Florida. About this program, as you may know, this is a new program here, started last year, 2022. And the projects that I'm working on are all of them ongoing projects, and some of them in the initial state of the work. So today I'm very excited to share with you the progress of my work, what I have done during the first year of the work here at ONA, and talking about introducing my ongoing projects and what is the status of the work that I'm doing here and what's the next step and what's the plan. So there are three main projects which are going on right now, and all of them are being conducted in the state of Florida. So, and I'm going to go through them one by one. But before that, there is another area that our program is contributing to, and that's the international research. We settled that international research program, and we started our research from Italy. And that's one area that we want to keep contributing to, because we feel that we know that it is important to understand the hydrology and of the watershed and the resiliency of the watershed at the state level, or within the United States or internationally. And we think those are important contributions of our program at the center and also at the University of Florida. So let's go to those studies. The first study that we are working on actually, study number 1 is about conservation practices and its impact on hydrology and water quality. So in this study, we're specifically looking at nitrogen. And that's important for us because nitrogen, as we know, nitrogen got a lot of attention in terms of water quality pollution these days. And it's like why it's important. Nitrogen is introduced as like with many operations on the field or on the ranch, like manure management or having fertilizers. Those are all of them sources of nitrogen in the water system. So, and best management practices, or BMPs, they are routinely used everywhere these days. But still there is a concern that if they are going to work or not, if they are going to improve the water quality or not. So that's why we designed this study. We are going to actually using modeling techniques to see the impact of best management practices that we pick on the nitrogen reduction in the surface water at this specific study and later in the groundwater. So study number 2, that's mostly about the surface hydrology and restoration. So this study is being conducted in the DeLuca Preserve in collaboration with the Ducks Unlimited. And this project is important also to us because it's like contributing to the goal of restoration in the Florida. But what's that goal? Like in this area of the Florida, in the DeLuca Preserve and the area around it, long time ago, a project, old project, I think in 1960s or 70s, like it went for decades, which was about the flood control in that area. That's why we see everything heavily ditched there. So by doing that, the hydrology alteration happened. So the hydrology of the area happened. Over drainage actually is something that the area around DeLuca and like upper Kissimmee River Basin suffers from. So what we are going to do in this project, so as I said, we are going to contribute to the goal of restoration effort. So what we are going to do, like we are going to look at, we are going to use modeling techniques to see how different management practices in that area is going to actually work in terms of restoring hydrology as much as possible. And then later on, we are going to look at the water quality impact. And one thing important there is the structures and hydraulics of the ditches there. We are going to consider that in our work too. So this project been recently started, and we are currently in this project at the stage of instrumentation. We need to install instrumentation in order to get the data monitored in terms of water level, flow, and other hydrologic data. So that was about study number 2. And I have another study going on, which is study number 3, and mainly focus on this study today. That's about the hydrogeology and groundwater system in the Florida state. So this study has been funded by the Florida Cattle Enhancement Board, and I would like to thank them for the support of this project and the support of our program. So it's been started last year fall, and it's going to be actually completed this summer, late summer. When I complete the study, when we have the study completed, of course, I'm going to have more interesting results to share with you. But today I'm going to share with you all the findings and the results that I got so far during the first few months of the project. So this study, again, it's an important study to us because groundwater is important. It's important, groundwater and aquifer system important everywhere, but specifically in Florida. And the reason is the main source of water supply in Florida is from groundwater. More than 60% of the fresh water in Florida is supplied by the groundwater. And also, besides that, like 90% or over 90% of the drinking water, it comes from groundwater. So we see like groundwater play an important role in terms of water resources in Florida. So Florida, by knowing that, we know that Florida is an essential, Florida's groundwater is an essential natural resource which we need to study it. And this natural resource is at risk, unfortunately, not everywhere, but in some places of the state, due to high water depletion or the movement of the nutrients into the groundwater. As I said, it's not everywhere, but in some places, and that makes it more necessary to study the groundwater. So by knowing that, it's important we understand the problem and understand the issues and then take the actions to either protect it or restore it. So if I want to introduce the structure, the general structure of the groundwater in Florida, almost everywhere it's like 3 layers of groundwater or aquifers exist in Florida. The first layer on the top, the surface layer, is the superficial aquifer. That's the shallow aquifer, and it's like there are some consumption from that aquifer. And underneath that, there is a impermeable layer, which is called confining unit. So that's also another layer of the structure like we see everywhere in Florida. And finally, the third layer is the Floridan aquifer. The Floridan aquifer is the most important one. It is one of the oldest groundwater resources around the world and in Florida and in United States. And so this is actually called Floridan aquifer. So if I want to look at most of the water that we use coming from the Floridan aquifer, as I mentioned, but still we are using the superficial aquifer as well. So some issues, what are the issues related to the groundwater in Florida? These are the general issues, like regarding every layer of, it can happen to like the superficial water or the Floridan aquifer. So one is like, if I want to name them, I can say one is the excessive water depletion from the aquifers. The other one is the movement of the nutrients into the groundwater, and also saline-related problems, salinity issues. Like these are the things observed around the state. So now by knowing them, now it's very important how to manage it, to find a best way to, like a good way to manage it effectively and efficiently. So, and for that purpose, if we want to do that, what we need is additional data and additional study. So that's why we have designed this study to understand the groundwater problem and the hydrogeology of the area in Florida. So, and also another reason for selecting this, for designing this study is that we have looked at, I have, based on the research I've done and the literature review, background review, I found that in the area that I'm looking at, the central Florida, almost no study about the hydrogeology and the groundwater. When I go, like when we look at this, the South Florida or East Coast, West Coast, there are tons of them, very advanced hydrogeologic models, but here it was like I found only few which was outdated. So I thought it's necessary to design a study for this area. The area that we are looking at, by the way, is the 3 counties of the DeSoto, Highlands, and Hardy. So in this study that we are doing, there are 2 phases of modeling. One is conceptual modeling, and the other one is numerical modeling. But here I want to just, because I have used a lot of time the term model, and I'm going to use it later, just again, I want to just give you a few sentences, like very simple definition of what is the model. So model is a mathematical tool based on the real physics of the nature. What does that mean? It means that it's a set of mathematical equations inside the model. So when we run the model, those mathematical equations being solved, and each of them representing one of the processes in the nature, for example, infiltration, runoff, rainfall. So a model is, in another word, the model is a simplified, approximated representation rather than the exact duplication of the nature. So let me give you an example. For example, suppose we have a ranch and we have water quality problem. We want to see how to solve it. We are interested to one of the best management practices, and we want to try it, but we don't know if that works. So what we are going to do, one way is to go to the field, install the best management practices that we are thinking of, let's say whatever we like, and then we don't know if that works very soon. We don't know today or tomorrow, or maybe in 1 year, 2 years. Then we have to monitor what we get from our field. And that's something takes time. But another way to understand it is the model, which is the most efficient and cost-effective way. So how it works is that, like, we set up the model and run the model, test the model for the ranch or for it can be in any level, like it can be at the field level, it can be at the watershed level. We test it and make sure the model that we are running is a good representation of the nature. And of course, that needs to be done by a modeler. And then in the next step, we knew, like, okay, this was the best management practices I wanted to try. We entered the information related to that into the model, rerun the model for any period of time. We don't need to wait for 2 years, or like we can run it for 10 years. And then we get the answer. So without spending thousands of dollars, we can use the model to know the answer if a best management practices works actually or not. So I try to explain the model the best as I could. So let's get back to our project. As I was saying about the project, that There is a conceptual model, and there is another model in the project, which is the numerical model. We have completed the conceptual model and we started from the area of highlands. The reason we started from there was that we had much more information there compared to the other places. So we are going to set up the model, complete it, and then we are going to extend it to the Hardy County and the DeSoto County. But what we have done there, we used conceptual model, means that we have gathered all the information, the geological information, hydrogeology, climate information, and by investigating those, we have set up our model conceptually, meaning that we know how the aquifer looks like there. We know all the specifications about the aquifer. We know that, for example, which areas has more infiltration, where the water comes to the aquifer, where the water goes out of our aquifer system, groundwater system. And those type of information, we have it now. We completed the conceptual model, and in the next step, actually we started the numerical model and we finished it for the Highlands County. That numerical model gave us some information, some actually results, and which is preliminary. But these preliminary results showed that the model is a good representation, has a good representation of the groundwater level at that study, and we need to further calibrate and verify the model later. But based on the data analysis, but I'm excited to share those results with you. Based on the data analysis and the preliminary results that we have, the groundwater level, it has a slight decline. It's about 3 feet during the 30-year period in that area, which is not bad. But we need to further investigate it, of course, because we don't know I don't know the answer if you ask me what's the impact now, because that's going to be another step. But what usually the water decline, groundwater decline, it can lead to salinity intrusion, salt intrusion, if the area is coastal. But in the central area, which is the area that we are using, we are modeling, it can cause extra cost for releasing water for every farmer or rancher or every stakeholder, whoever needs to withdraw the water from the wells. So in terms of water quality, I only talk about the nitrogen concentration in the groundwater. And I divided this results into 2 sections. One is the results of the nitrogen for the superficial aquifer. And if you remember, the superficial aquifer was the shallow aquifer on the top. When we look at the results of nitrogen concentration in the area, I'm only talking about the Highlands County. Everywhere, most of the places are undeveloped. And the groundwater, wherever we have it under the undeveloped area, it's like nitrate concentrations fine. And but we have seen actually the nitrate concentration above the maximum level of contamination level, or MCL, which is mostly in the area of Lake Wales. So that's also another piece of information. We are going to look at it further and investigate it in our future steps of this work. So by looking at the Floridan aquifer, which is the deeper aquifer, the good news is there is no problem regarding the nitrogen in that aquifer. So again, whatever information I passed to you was about the Highlands County, and we need to extend it and investigate the other 2 counties as well. So the next step, when we are done with this work, when we verify the model, the next step is going to define the scenarios, the alternative scenarios to solve the problem. Of course, that alternative scenarios is gonna be finalized by having some field visits and discussing and with the stakeholders and different organizations. But what we have in mind so far for this project is looking at the management of the rate and the time of the fertilizer. And the other thing that we want to do is managing the water we enter into the system, or in another word, irrigation management. So by doing those scenarios, hopefully by the end of the work, we can say if those scenarios are going to help at all, or if they do, which one is the better scenario. And that gives us also the opportunity to later on try another different scenarios for the model and look at the results of the nitrogen or even other constituents. So another thing just I want to take a few minutes to discuss and is like the next step of the project. Next step when we finish that scenario analysis, or at that stage, is that we are going to look at the one factor which is important to decide which scenario is important, and that's which scenario works better, and that's the acceptability of the best management practices. And it means that this is going to be done by questionnaires to be provided to the stakeholder to see which practices that we propose or themselves they would like to have is more actually acceptable based on different factors or items that we provide them in the questionnaire. And that's something that we start working on it and the questionnaire soon this summer. And we are going to provide the questionnaire for selecting the best management practices. So some long-term benefits of this study, I think, is if I want to name some of them, allowing the scientists, stakeholders, and other organizations who are looking at the hydrogeology of the area to understand the groundwater system and aquifer system underlying their ranches or farms. The second thing is it helps us to decide or understand the different best management practices, and hopefully having recommendations for selecting the best management practices. Thank you everyone for your attention, and I look forward to sharing with you the progress of research in near future. Any question? Yes.
Do you have wells drilled into each aquifer, or are you using Swiftmud's aquifers well?
We are using the wells, which is yes. The answer is yes, but we personally did not drill them. Those wells are existed there. There are a number of wells drilled into the superficial aquifer, some of them into the Floridan aquifer deeper, and even there are wells for every layer. Yes, there are wells, and we have the information.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes.
Generally, what is the depth of the different aquifers?
Actually I have it here. For the superficial aquifer, it's something, I think, yeah, for the superficial aquifer, it goes somewhere around 30 feet. And for the upper Floridan aquifer, because Floridan aquifer divided into different levels, the upper Floridan aquifer, which is the one we consume, we just have all our drinking water from, it goes all the way around 1,500 feet. You can see the profile of the different layers of the groundwater.
And then the Floridian is how deep is the deepest? The Floridian.
Yes,
How deep is
it's in deepest area. It's gonna be somewhere around 1,600, if we consider all the Floridan aquifer, not only the first layer. Yes.
What was the goal of the second study?
The second study was the study we are doing.
What are we trying to learn?
Um,
What
Oh, it was restoration goal. It was about like, it's in the DeLuca area, and in that area we have over drainage from many years ago. So now we are trying to, this is something try to be restored, the hydrology, going back to have more water again.
So the goal might be changing all those drainage ditches.
But that's good question.
I mean-
Changing those ditches can be a scenario.
Yeah.
That's something that we could use it by model, because we are not going to the field and backfilling all the ditches, obviously. So we could try it in the model and see how it works, if that helps.
Well, they do it in the mosquito trenches in Mosquito Lagoon and just causes havoc with the water there. You know, because the ditches have been there for 100 years, and now all of a sudden you're trying to fill them in.
Yeah, we don't do it physically. We
Now they're doing them physically in the
Oh, you
lagoon.
okay?
I was just curious.
Yeah. Any other question? Thank you.